Hey, it's Max from UNFTR reporting for the Midas Touch Network. You know, when it comes to reporting on economic data, there's really one metric that matters above all others: jobs. And when it comes to jobs, we're being asked to hold several thoughts in our minds at once.
2025, now the weakest year of jobs growth since the pandemic. Now, on the other hand, the unemployment rate dipped to 4.4%.
Worst job growth year since the pandemic. You know, if memory serves, that was a pretty bad year. But the unemployment rate actually dipped, and it's holding steady at acceptable levels to this administration. With 2025 in the rear view, level setting on the U.S. employment picture is the task at hand today because the view ahead is pretty murky. So let's get to it. All right, we're going to do a deep dive into the data today, but to set things up, I want to play a clip from the man who would be the head of the Fed, Kevin Hassett. Now, I say would because he's actually dropped in the Polymarket odds as the lead candidate to replace Jerome Powell, and two things to note about that. First off, I give you Polymarket odds as a tongue planted firmly in cheek reference because the whole political odds game is disgusting. And second, who would want this job? Working for a president, considering that the DOJ is contemplating bogus criminal charges against the sitting Fed chair. I mean, we are truly living in the worst timeline. Anyway, here's Hassett with a stunning torrent of lies. See if you can pick them out.
Do you consider 4.4% pretty close to full employment at this point?
Right. Well, it's changing for two reasons. It's changing because we've got government employees that have been laid off because President Trump is reducing government spending. That's about 250,000 workers this year. That's a lot. And we also have people who are being deported and re-domiciled because they were here illegally and working. And I think if you add those two things, then a good, healthy labor report is probably closer to 70,000 than 140, 150,000, right, which is what it was back in the day. And so bottom line right now, I'm looking at the output numbers, and we got GDP now north of 5% in the fourth quarter after 4% the previous quarter. So I think you got to say that Trump policies are really working. They're really working, and they're working because they're onshoring production. They're causing factories to build, and in the fullest of time, I expect that to cause a job blowout in the second half of next year, especially.
This goober is such a good professional liar that he deserves the Trump nomination. So let's go through this statement before we look at the actual data from the real world. So the prompt here is whether Hassett considers 4.4% close to full employment. There is no precise statistical measure for full employment from the Federal Reserve standpoint, except as defined as the best labor market relative to its 2% inflation target. This is a very modern construct that's been adopted by central banks that I personally take issue with, but that's for another day. So the real question in this context is this the best that our modern economy is going to be able to produce? So right away, Hassett starts with nonsense answers by running defense for the federal worker layoffs.